All right, welcome back in, everybody. This is the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. We broadcast through the Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios, and time right now in those Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios, 4:15. We are coming to you today live from Ott's in Medford, New Jersey, and we're powered today by Corona Light. The Phillies sent out a release today that there will be a special presentation for Ryan Howard on Sunday. They won't officially say that they will buy out Ryan Howard, but that's the feel that you get, obviously, with Ryan Howard, as that is the end of an era in Philadelphia. Now joining us on the hotline as the Phillies play the Mets starting on Friday, and that series will conclude on Sunday. The end of 162 for the Philadelphia Phillies is Matt Breen from Philly.com, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Matt, I appreciate a few minutes, and how are you, my friend?
Good. How you doing, Zach?
Well, I'm doing great. Can't complain. So with Ryan Howard, if you were to draw it up in an ideal world, this is not how it would end, especially knowing the golden time that he did have with the Philadelphia Phillies for so many years. But you like to remember the positive compared to the negative, because this is still someone that delivered a World Series championship to Philadelphia. So what are some of the positive memories that come back to mind when you hear the name Ryan Howard in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think there was like you said, a lot of positive memories. About a 5-year run where this guy was, one of the best power hitters in baseball, catalyst to the 2008 World Championship team. He was, came up in 2005 and really, helped that hope that was going around the Phillies at that time at the new ballpark, and he brought a lot of that. And next thing you know, they're competing for playoff spots in 06, and then they're winning division titles in 07, 08, and then winning World Series, and Ryan Howard is right in the middle of that. And the bad part ended when, he blew out his Achilles, and that whole dynasty ended that night too. Ryan Howard was never the same again after that night in 2011, and the Phillies haven't been the same since. And a lot of, a lot of hopes and a lot of, dreams that this team was going to win, not just win a World Series when they got Cliff Lee before that season, when they brought him and Roy Halladay together. They were going to win multiple World Series. And it all ended that night, and I think Ryan Howard has kind of been the symbol of that end of a dynasty, and a dynasty that really never happened. And I think that's why he's taken the brunt of it for the last few seasons. But now, the final month of the season or so, and especially going into the weekend, like you said, they're going to honor him Sunday. I think people can step back and be like, we don't have to be mad at him anymore, or, we can enjoy it, remember how much fun that was, his first 5 or 6 seasons in the big leagues, and how good he really was and how special it was to watch him, and now celebrate him this final weekend.
Handling a declining superstar is always tough, especially someone that was a winner in the city of Philadelphia. How do you believe Pete Mackanin handled this situation this year? It got a little bit ugly with the fan threw the beer bottle at him, which was absolutely deplorable, but I do have to give credit to Pete Mackanin because it's a tricky situation. I think he's handled it pretty darn well this year.
Yeah, I thought he definitely handled it well, too. Pete's handled almost everything as well as you could ask him to, and this situation is no different. He's platooned him with Tommy Joseph, who they had to see. Is Tommy Joseph a piece going forward, or what is Tommy Joseph? And they were able to find out what Tommy Joseph was, which looks like at least going into the next season, he's going to be the starting first baseman. But they also got to, give Ryan Howard his fair share and let him, get his 1 or 2 starts a week, whatever it, ended up being, and kind of let him go out the pasture, the way it kind of should be.
Matt, you're very plugged in with the Phillies. That's why we bring you on the show today. What are you hearing that they're going to specifically be doing on Sunday? Have you heard anything on that front?
I haven't, but my guess would be you're going to see some type of video presentation, which includes comments from guys like Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins, Shane Victorino, guys that played with Ryan Howard. I would guess it's going to be the same type of ceremony you saw when Rollins broke the Phillies hit record a couple years ago. They had about a 5-minute video montage of Jimmy Rollins highlights plus comments from Bradley Cooper to Mike Schmidt. It was almost everybody that had some type of connection to the city. And Ryan Howard will probably get the same thing. I don't think he's going to have the microphone on the field and make a speech or anything like that. But it'll be a nice moment before the game. But I think it really starts Friday. He's going to start all 3 games this weekend. And I would be shocked if he doesn't, his first time up, get a standing ovation and have to tip his helmet before that first at bat. You're going to see something similar to what Utley got when he came back this year. Is what Howard's going to get all 3 games before his first at bat.
I know the weather is iffy for this weekend, and I hope that doesn't affect attendance, but this could be the last time that you see Ryan Howard playing in this ballpark, because even if he gets an opportunity to go to an ALT mat, there's no guarantees that they would be playing in Philadelphia next year. So it's really important, I believe, for the fans to get out to the ballpark and show their respect to Ryan Howard this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. It's your last chance to see Ryan Howard, a guy that was beloved in the city for, like I said, his first 6 years were really special, and this is the last chance. But, I can't fault somebody for not coming out if you're going to watch football this weekend. Like you said, the weather's pretty terrible this weekend. And, I'm not expecting a sellout on Sunday, but they usually do pretty good on Fan Appreciation Day. So I would say probably anywhere from 20 to 30,000 people.
What would be the benefit for an AL team these days to take a flyer up on Ryan Howard for next year? Do you still see something left? I know he's been hot in the second half of the season, but do you believe there will be a few teams maybe taking a flyer on Ryan Howard coming up this offseason?
I think he will get an invitation to spring training. I don't know if he's actually going to get a major league, guaranteed contract, or it's just going to be an invite to spring training. But somebody will take a flyer on him, see if he still can hit, see if he can be a DH. Maybe that would be a help for him. It would take the pain off his knees a little bit, just let him bat, and if he can do that, I'm not really sold that he's got much left. His batting average this year, was looking at it today, and you just you live in such a vacuum that you forget how low it really is, and he's hitting below 200. It's not good. So I don't know if he's going to be a savior to another team, but somebody else give him a shot in spring training, see if he sticks, and then it'll be the same way that Jimmy Rollins was treated and Chase Utley has been treated. And if they stick somewhere else, then that's what will happen.
Matt Breen joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. So we've talked about the prodigious home runs that he hit in a Philadelphia Phillies uniform, but you look at the numbers from a certain time period, 58 home runs, 47, 48, 45, 31, 33. We like to debate who was the most important Philly of that era. Was Ryan Howard the most important Philly of that era just because of the big-time home runs and the stats that he put up, or do you take another Philly from that time period?
Yeah, I think you could make a case for 3 or 4 of those guys from that era of, really good Phillies teams, if it's Rollins, Utley, Cole Hamels, or Ryan Howard. But I always make the argument for Chase Utley. He's always the guy to me that kind of held that team together, was, such a presence in the clubhouse, and was probably one of the best players in baseball from 2006 to 2008, when it was 2010, really, when they were really one of the best teams, and I thought he was one of the best players. I think the advanced stats favor him a little bit. But you can make a case for Ryan Howard. He was one of the biggest threats in the middle of a really potent lineup. So, I'm not going to argue with anybody about if Ryan Howard, if it's Chase Utley, or, Jimmy Rollins, all of those guys, they all peaked at the same time, and that was what was so special about that really short window of Phillies baseball there.
Matt, let's get into this current group of the Philadelphia Phillies. One thing that is definitely alarming, and that's a big understatement maybe, even with how bad they've been this month, has been the bullpen, the 28th best bullpen in baseball, an ERA over 8 in the month of September. You watch this team a lot. Why has this bullpen been so bad in the month of September?
The bullpen's really a collection of, guys pieced together. They're not so as bad as it is. It's not that concerning in the long term. In the short term, if you look at this season and just this season, sure, it's pretty bad. But going forward, I can think of 2 of those guys that they hope are pieces going forward, and that's Hector Neris and Eddie Bray Ramos. But besides that, they're just guys that they're giving looks at, seeing if they have anything that sticks, and if they don't, then on to the next one for next year. So as bad as the bullpen is, I don't think it's that big of a concern. The biggest concern to me is probably the starting pitching. Going into the next season, you're going to have 7 guys that are 26 or younger competing for spots in the rotation, which is a great thing to have youth. But only one of those guys, Jared Eichhoff, has pitched the full season. You have Zach Eflin and Aaron Nola, kind of coming back from pretty serious injuries next year. I'm not sure if they're even going to be ready. They think they will be, so you hope that that's the case. And then so that's where the concern, not the concern, but just I guess the most interesting thing is to see how these young pitchers really handle that next year.
You know that the manager, Pete McCannon, will advocate to add another bat in the lineup for next year. I'm just wondering because you need to find the proper balance of, yes, finding a bat, but then not risking anything for the future and overspending and getting yourself tied down to a bad contract in the later on years. How do you evaluate that situation coming up in the offseason where the manager wants a bat, but you don't know if Matt Klentak is going to deliver him that?
Yeah, they have no money tied really, going forward. It's going to be the lowest payroll next year as it stands now. Probably 2001 or 2002 when, before they really ever signed a major free agent. And that's where the question comes in. Do you spend the money this winter or do you wait until, the guys that are there that you want to spend the money on? And I bet they don't spend much this winter. I bet it's not, they don't get that established hitter that I know Pete's asking for. You probably spend it next winter. It's just a matter of when. They're going to spend the money. They have all the money in the world. They have a huge contract now with Comcast, with TV rights. That's where all this money is going to come from. And it's just, they're going to spend money. It's just when do they spend it? And I think if they do sign somebody this year, it's not going to be someone that they're not going to risk a long-term contract like, what you're talking about getting burnt down the road because you gave some guy 5 or 6 years. It's going to be a 2 or 3 year contract that no matter what, it can't really hurt you going forward. And I think if the right guy is there this winter, they're going to get him. But if not, I think they probably wait till next year.
Let me throw a name that could be a compelling situation, and it would be a nightmare for Mets fan. Let's say if Yoenis Cespedes goes against his word, can you see the Phillies being players for Yoenis Cespedes in this offseason?
Yeah, that's the guy. He's not a veteran like an Ian Desmond kind of guy who's at the tail end of his career or a little bit older. That's Yoenis Cespedes. If that's what you're going to get this offseason, which like you hinted at, I don't think it's going to happen. But if he's available, I think the Phillies would certainly go out and buy a guy like that. Or if there's like Andrew McCutchen is a guy that there's a little rumbling that he might be on the trade market if it's this winter or maybe next summer because he's got a contract coming to an end in Pittsburgh and they found the money to re-sign him. If that's available and you can flip some of your prospects or young pitchers for a guy like that, yeah, they need an outfielder. So if any of those two guys are available, for sure, back up the Brinks truck and sign them.
How many players that play a good amount of time on this team right now in the everyday lineup do you believe are a part of the big future plan of the Philadelphia Phillies?
That's a good question. If you asked me before the season, I'd probably give you a completely different answer. But right now, I really don't know. There's a lot to learn about the guys in AAA and AA that you would expect to take these jobs, and really the guys that are up there now. J.P. Crawford is a guy at AAA that you would expect would have already been a shortstop right now. I thought he'd be up here no later than September 1st this year. Instead, he's looking at, they hope, maybe early next year. So until then, you don't know how they're going to handle the Freddie Galvis and Cesar Hernandez. One of them's going to have to get bumped over. At first base, Tommy Joseph, like I said earlier, seems like a guy that at least gets a shot for another year. And in the outfield, Odubel Herrera had a pretty solid year for being a guy that, is only in his second big league year. So I think he's a piece. I don't know if he's a piece for when they contend again, if that's in 2 or 3 years, but he's a piece for next year at least. And then just going around the horn, like Aaron Altherr, I don't know. He's such a small sample size. It's hard to really make a determination on this guy if he's a piece going forward. So I think next year that's going to be a picture that really comes into focus a little bit better when you need to get more at bats from these guys that really you can say, yeah, he's going to be here when they're contending again.
What's your thoughts on a player like Nick Williams?
I think Nick Williams is all the talent in the world, and it's a guy that I said in spring who's going to be the first prospect up. I figured Nick Williams would definitely be that guy, but as you know, he never came to the big leagues this year, and had some problems with his attitude in AAA. But I think a little bit that was overblown. I don't know how much the Phillies are really concerned about that, but that's a guy that is a position in need, an outfielder, a corner outfielder, and he plays great defense. He's got great speed. He can hit gap to gap. So, like I said, all the talent in the world, but he's just really a thing of putting it together. And you would hope that him and Crawford can both come up sometime around, May or June of next year.
So I want to get your assessment on Maikel Franco, because he was a player this year that has not produced to the level that some Phillies fans were hoping for. 251 average, 25 home runs. How do you assess Maikel Franco?
Ups and downs. Like you said, he has 25 home runs, which is pretty impressive for, a third baseman, homegrown, young guy. That's the thing that I always remind people, how young he is. 23 years old. He really, I know he didn't have a season in the world, but you got to remember how young he is, and still he could be, maybe he is the centerpiece of the lineup of the next contending Phillies team. I think for sure he is a part of the future going forward, or at least he is, somewhere in the middle of that order of that next contending team. That's a guy that I really like a lot, and I think he showed it, especially at the end of the season. He seemed to really come on, and I think in the beginning of the year he was maybe pressing a little bit too much with the offense being as bad as it was. He probably put a lot of pressure on himself to be the guy and to make up for all the other the lack of power in the lineup.
Do you feel like these Philly players want to play the role of spoiler this weekend, or do they just want to get this 162 over with?
They had a team meeting last night in Atlanta where the message was that, we have 4 games left. We can spoil somebody else's season, but I think some of that spoiler stuff kind of gets overblown sometimes. Like, could a Phillies team that just got rocked by the Mets last weekend really just say we're going to play spoilers this weekend, and a Mets team, a red-hot Mets team competing for a playoff spot is just going to, get overbeaten by this team because they want to play spoilers? I think, it just comes down to the fact that the Mets are a much better team. The Phillies, have no pitchers left early. The bullpen's in shambles. So I would be shocked if the Phillies, as much as they want to play spoilers, I think it's, push comes to shove. You want to do something, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it.
Matt, before we let you run, as Matt Breen joins us from Philly.com, I have a writing question for you, actually. So when you write an article, can you take me through how the process of delivering a headline comes about and how people make a headline on an article? Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
For the most part, if it's in print, I don't have anything to do with the headline. But for the web, we, I don't know, you write what the main message of the story is. And I guess the web headline is different than the print. Are you talking about the Newsday thing? I saw your tweet today.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm referring to, because I'll preface it by saying this. I subscribe to Newsday. I like their paper. But yesterday, when you have the headline of smooth sailing with Sharp Noah after what happened in Miami with Jose Fernandez, I don't even find any defense for that, and I thought it was a joke. I reached out to Newsday today to try to get him on the show, but I never heard back from them. But I was stunned last night when someone sent me that picture of the headline, and I saw that. I just don't get how something like that happens.
Yeah, I saw your tweet, and then I'm always trying to, put myself on the other side and try to see, well, what, why would they have done that? And, maybe there is a argument, but I had nothing either. I couldn't think of anything, unless you're really that tone deaf when you thought of it. But I don't know. That baffled me as well. I had no clue how that gets done.
I'll tell you wouldn't see something like that on Philly.com. Not with your work.
I hope not.
Matt Breen, I'll see you this weekend at the stadium. Appreciate a few minutes. Thanks so much.
Good talking to you, Zach.